Hello, everybody. Sorry, delay. I was looking at something. Welcome to the Expendable Show. I'm your host, the Expendable. So we've got a lot of stuff to cover today, so I need to get right into it. Like I said, or like I say on every show, if you like my show, like, subscribe, and ding the bell. Let's get into our statistics because, like I said, there's a ton of stuff to go over, and I don't have enough time. Gas prices, average price is $2.92 a gallon. It's $2.49 here in Georgia where I'm at. Mortgage rates down 5.875%. Trump's approval rating 42%. The Dow Jones closed today at $49,662.66. I said that as fast as I could. So the Nancy Guthrie update, not much to update. My question is, and I'm going to just say this real quick and then I'm going to move on. But if they had all this camera footage of the suspect going in, don't you think they should have footage of him going out with Nancy Guthrie? Like, I feel like they're not giving us all of the footage. I don't know. Hey, it's Rachel and Bonnie. It's like you guys are like two peas in a pod on here anymore. Getting in trouble in the comment section. Next. So one of my favorite actors, Shia LaBeouf, he's like the new Russell Crowe. He got into a bar fight in New Orleans during Mardi Gras the other day. So he's in jail. Well, he's out now, but he got into a big fist fight in a bar, got charged with battery, bonded out. Which I guess it carried out into the street. Bonnie, you got to behave. There's a lot of people watching the show today. I think everybody's waiting on my Doug Harless section. So let's go with gotta keep life spicy. Agreed. So Trump and Iran, they're going through this negotiation period. So it's not the day. Oh, well, here we go. See, everybody's in the chat. Everybody's in the chat today. I like that. Where's Rick? We're missing Rick. But Trump met with Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu at the White House on February 11th. It was a 3-hour meeting focused heavily on Iran. Trump said afterward that he insisted talks with Iran continue, though nothing definitive came out of the meeting. This is going to be I feel like this is going to take a minute to get done. I just wrote a piece about it for the Islamabad Telegraph. Speaking of which, let me throw the sponsors up there real quick before I get yelled at. This episode is brought to you by Gatsby Trading Solutions and the Islamabad Telegraph. There. I got another one. I'm just waiting on a graphic to add to it. Hey, there's Rick. Say his name and he shall appear. Netanyahu is pushing Trump to broaden negotiations to include Iran's ballistic missile program and Israel's security concerns, which I think that's legitimate. You know, Iran likes to shoot off 300 missiles at a time at Israel. So I think if I was Israel, I would probably say something too. Usually I don't stick up for Israel too much, for one, because they're very capable of defending themselves. But in this situation, as soon as the United States stops paying attention to Iran, Israel's going to start doing something stupid, or Iran is going to do something stupid. I almost said Israel. Well, it could probably go both ways, I suppose. Where was I? Oh, so U.S. and Iran nuclear talks resumed in Geneva on February 17th. These are indirect talks mediated by the country of Oman. Iran called for discussions. They said things are happening positively. So things are progressing. They like that. But you can't really trust them because they always say, hey, we'll be good. And then as soon as we stop paying attention to them, then they're doing something stupid. Happens every single time. Unless Hillary Clinton's in office, then she sends them jumbo jets full of gold. They're like, here you go, buddies. Here, you want to fund some terrorists? Go ahead. So Trump says he's going to be involved indirectly in the next round of talks. He was speaking aboard Air Force One on February 16th. Trump said he would not be at the table directly, but would shape the U.S. position behind the scenes. Iran's Foreign Minister Abbas Araghchi, there we go with these names. Oh, they're already making the rules in the chat section. The rules are being laid out. No sugarcoating, nothing. So Trump continues to use pressure tactics. He continues to, when he gets on TV, he's always talking about military intervention. I'm not ruling it out. He's doing that on purpose. It's a psychiatric thing where he's implementing that into Iran's head. Like Trump is going to continue to. Yeah, I know. They're definitely, Iran is definitely rebuilding their nuclear stockpiles. Hopefully, I think they're just stalling. To be honest, I think Iran is always trying to stall until they can get something done. I don't think it's going to matter. We have so many people, so many ships over in that area. I'm not sure that Iran can survive. And then that's not even counting the subs that are floating around out there. You know, there's probably at least 5 or 6 subs out there. After his meeting with Netanyahu, Trump again refused to rule out military strikes on Iran. He has repeatedly warned Tehran that it must reach a deal soon or face traumatic consequences. These warnings reference Operation Midnight Hammer, a U.S. strike that last year that damaged their nuclear facilities. So that's going on there. I'm paying close attention. Obviously, I do international news for several news stations, so I got to pay attention to that stuff. Hopefully there will be a de-escalation. So there's an interesting thing going on. I don't know if anybody's paying attention, but the Olympics is going on, the Winter Olympics. I have a tough time with the Olympics. When they went super woke, I stopped watching. But I do like hockey. So I do like when they did the hockey, the USA versus the world thing during the All-Star break last year, and like for the NHL and the United States and Canada was beefing, and then they were fighting on the ice like every 10 seconds. It was awesome. But anyway, we're seeing a lot of China is always sticking their nose in something. They're always trying to like be behind the scenes doing this little I'm gonna be over. They're kind of like, they remind me of like Gargamel on the Smurfs. They're like, Azrael, come here. But so there's some new stuff going on. So multiple credible news outlets and U.S. government disclosures confirm that Alyssa Liu and her father Arthur Liu, and she's a figure skater, they were targeted in a Chinese government direct spying operation. This was not because of anything Alyssa did, but because of her father's political history. You know what? I don't even know who Jake Paul's girlfriend is. That's how much I don't pay attention to that kind of stuff. I didn't even know he had a girlfriend. Who could put up with Jake Paul? I mean, he's my fellow Ohio buddy, but I can't. I don't know, man. He's too much for me. But anyway, Arthur Liu, he was in Tiananmen Square for the pro-democracy. He was a pro-democracy activist. So Arthur Liu fled China after participating in Tiananmen Square, which happened in 1989. Because of this, he was considered a political dissident by the Chinese government. So the Chinese government doesn't like him. So it's weird that they're poking at him now, trying to get whatever out of him. So according to the reporting, the FBI contacted Arthur Liu and informed him that Chinese operatives were attempting to gather information about him and his daughter. So maybe they were trying to take him out. I don't know. This warning came just months before Alyssa competed in the 2022 Beijing Olympics, raising concerns about her safety and potential pressure tactics. Based on U.S. Justice Department allegations and media reports, the operation involved attempting to access private information about the family. They're monitoring their activities, trying to intimidate or influence the father because of his political past, and tracking Alyssa's Olympic participation due to its symbolic value. So it doesn't look like she did anything wrong. The goal was not to harm Alyssa, but to pressure or silence her father, who's a known critic of the Chinese government. So Alyssa has spoken publicly about the situation, emphasizing that she tried to stay focused on skating and not let the situation affect her. So that's one situation. It looks like it was harmless on their end. China's just sticking their nose where it don't belong, like they always do. There was a second one. This one's a little bit more nefarious. So this is about Eileen Gu, G-U, finally a foreign name I can pronounce. She was born and raised in the United States, but chose to compete for China starting in 2019. The decision has repeatedly sparked accusations of betrayal and turning her back on America. Former NBA player Enes Kanter Freedom, who I absolutely love him. He was, I'm a New York Knicks fan. So when he played for the Knicks, I was a huge fan. I was like, yes. And then he super checked LeBron James one game, and LeBron didn't want no smoke. But he's called her a traitor. So Enes Kanter is calling Eileen Gu a traitor for representing China. U.S. political figures, including Vice President J.D. Vance, have commented on the controversy, saying they have no idea what her status should be, but emphasizing they root for American athletes. So what they did, so she participated for China and then turned around. No, I need that to go away. I don't trust Temu or whatever you call it. I don't trust that as far as I can throw it. I just feel like what people make memes about, where you order like this $30 couch that's supposed to be this luxury couch, and it's going to come in the mail and it's going to be this big. I don't know. But a major storyline in 2026 involves allegations that Gu received $6.6 million in training funds from the Chinese government. A leaked report claims she benefited from undue funding tied to Chinese state sources. This reignited the betrayal debate and raised questions about whether she was being financially incentivized to represent China. So basically, she sold out her country for a few $1 million. Multiple outlets covered this as a paid by China controversy. It's one of the most concrete document-based controversies that she's faced. So there's, the Olympic backlash. Like, people are not happy with this woman. And then turned around, she ended up getting assaulted and robbed on Stanford University. And her dorm room was broken into. So, who knows who did that? Probably some idiot. So tomorrow, President Trump is going to be in Rome, Georgia. I am debating whether or not, I was debating I'm not going to go. I was going to go, but then he's going to host. It's being held in two different factories. So Rome, Georgia, in that whole area, like Rome, Dalton, which Dalton's right off of I-75 north of Atlanta, close to the Tennessee border. That area is notorious, like super notorious for hardwood flooring, like the laminate flooring. Like Shaw is there, and Mohawk. And there's another one, but I forget what they're called. But Shaw and Mohawk are like the two largest laminate flooring companies in I think in the world. But they're based out of that area. So if you go past Dalton, Georgia on I-75, you're just going to see plant after plant that say Mohawk and Shaw on it. It'll be all over the place. Like, it's crazy. I do business with Mohawk, so I'm pretty familiar with that business there. Very, very well respected company. So he's gonna be in Georgia tomorrow. Since they're doing it in a plant, I'm not going. Dang, DeSantis, he might turn into Kentucky's governor. Wouldn't that be cool? Ron DeSantis. So Fox 5 in Atlanta, like they haven't really announced like the time either. So I'm not real sure. Like they're being real hush hush about the details. So I think they're just trying to make it a hurry up, get in, talk to some people at this factory, make a speech, and get out. But that specific area is specifically Marjorie Taylor Greene's former congressional district. So I think he's kind of killing two birds with one stone. It's a huge manufacturing area, and it's also Marjorie Taylor Greene's district. Now, also happening in Georgia. So this is you probably all have heard about this. It's made major news. I think they talked about it about half the morning this morning on Fox News. So multiple Georgia news outlets and national sources confirmed that on Monday morning, February 16th, a Savannah, Georgia teacher named Dr. Linda Davis was killed when a man fleeing federal immigration officers ran a red light and crashed into her vehicle. The driver was identified as Oscar Vasquez Lopez, a 38-year-old Guatemalan national. Police say he fled an attempted traffic stop by Immigration and Customs Enforcement, leading to a high-speed pursuit, which Savannah's in Chatham County. So the Chatham County Police and DHS reported that ICE agents attempt to stop Lopez during a federal immigration operation. Lopez refused to stop, made what officials described as a reckless U-turn, and sped away. He then ran a red light at a busy Savannah intersection and struck Davis's car. It sucks because Savannah is one of my favorite cities in all the United States. Like the history that's there and the way that it's like a miniature New Orleans. In case any of you have ever been to Savannah, they have like a French district. They have all these different districts, and it's just a cool city. Like you can basically park in a parking garage and just walk around along the riverfront like all night. It's awesome. And they got dueling pianos. That's good. There's lots of cool stuff to do in Savannah. But anyway, the victim, Dr. Linda Davis, was a beloved special education teacher at Hess K through 8 school in Savannah. The school district released a statement and brought in grief counselors for students and staff. Lopez is facing vehicular homicide charges and additional charges related to fleeing law enforcement. So this has been a big thing here because of, Forrest Gump, Freddie. Yep. Some of Forrest Gump was filmed in Savannah. There's a big Senate race going on here in Georgia that President Trump is paying close attention to, which is part of the reason why he's coming to Georgia. And you can come back, Rick. We got lots of cool stuff to do here. But so DHS Assistant Secretary Tricia McLaughlin calls it a deadly consequence of encouraging resistance to ICE. She also said ICE publicly pushed back against online claims, blaming the agency for the crash, calling those accusations an utterly disgusting lie. So Jon Ossoff has yet to comment on this. You want me to do an investigative story on how Shein and Temu offer things so cheap? I might have to go to China and do some research. I don't know. I mean, most of their stuff's made out of plastic, so most plastic you can buy plastic pellets for about 5 cents a pound, some of the cheap stuff. So Jon Ossoff has not made a comment on this as of right now. So, and he may not. I don't know. It's his district that this happened in. No, it's not. It is. So Jon Ossoff has yet to say anything. He needs to say something. Mike Collins, who's running against Ossoff, who is my House representative right now. He said basically the same thing. He's running. Mike Collins is running in the primary against Buddy Carter. They both have basically given the same thing, the same statement. So I'm not going to go through and talk about all that. But they basically said, stop resisting ICE. Let the ICE do their job. So we are at the bread and butter. So let's get into the Doug Harless stuff. So where does this case stand now, according to the internet? So we're at month 14 or 15, somewhere around in there, since Doug Harless was shot unjustly, and I think it's probably appropriate to say that. Yeah, no, you're good. Fulton County's still fighting over. They're trying to take Trump to court over the FBI coming in and taking the election files. So that's yet to be determined. But we've had this situation, and I'm going to be extremely sensitive to the Harless family, because I feel bad, because they should be resting. Doug's memory should be at peace. Things should just settle down, and things should start to kind of go back to normal the best that you can with having what happened to Doug happen. I'm very sympathetic towards that. I think it's a horrible situation, and it never should have happened. And I don't like when these things happen. And unfortunately, these human error happens all the time. Does it mean that it's excusable? No, but this is a human error problem. So I'm just going to kind of go down for some of the people who watch my show that don't know anything about Kentucky or what's going on there. I was just on the phone today with a lawyer in Washington, D.C., talking about this specific case, and they were like, oh my gosh, that really happened. I was like, yeah, it did. So the investigation into the fatal shooting of 63-year-old Doug Harless, he was killed in a wrong address warrant. So basically, for those of you who don't know, the London PD tried to serve a search warrant, and they went into Doug Harless's house, and it was the wrong address. They went into the wrong property, and Doug, in the middle of a sleep, heard somebody kick his door in, and grabbed his firearm and pointed it, and London PD shot and killed him. And it's a very unfortunate situation, and we're going to dig all the way through it, and we're going to see what's what. So the Kentucky State Police completed their months-long investigation and turned the case over to Jackie Steele. Well, Jackie Steele recused himself, passed it on to Matthew Leverage, who's a special prosecutor. He presented, from what I understand, he presented it to the grand jury. The grand jury has seen this case. From what I understand, there is a determination on this case. So let's go through Matthew Leverage real quick for those who don't know. Leverage was appointed in late 2025 to oversee the case after the initial review stalled. He will be the one to decide what evidence goes before the grand jury and whether any officers face criminal charges. Local leaders and attorneys are saying that they're hoping the case will be presented to a grand jury this week, which we know it was. And marking the first real movement towards potential charges in over a year, community members continue to push for accountability, repeating the message, the goal should be justice for Doug Harless, which I 100% agree. There should be accountability for that. Well, I'm going to get to that, Bonnie. I'm going to get to that. So the Doug Harless family has filed a very large, lucrative lawsuit, rightfully so. And the city of London most likely is going to lose that lawsuit very badly. They filed a lawsuit against the London Police Department, multiple officers in the city of London. The suit alleges wrongful death, excessive force, gross negligence, unlawful search, and violations of constitutional rights. The lawsuit emphasizes that officers were searching for a stolen weed eater at a different address when they raided the wrong home and killed Doug Harless. the case is at a critical point because this has been the focal point of most of the tension in London. And I completely understand why. When a citizen of your town should be able to go to sleep a law-abiding citizen and wake up a law-abiding citizen. And that didn't happen for Doug Harless. This is just a bad situation. I can't stress enough how bad this is. And I feel horrible because the Breonna Taylor case got so much international news, and you can barely read about it in the state of Kentucky. And that's a travesty. And so that's why I try to bring as much attention to it as possible outside of the state of Kentucky. I've passed this case on to so many news outlets, so many people, many other law enforcement officers, constitutional attorneys, anybody in my Rolodex of contacts has looked at this case. And we're all just kind of sitting around waiting to see what the official ruling is going to be. Now, there are things that have been thrown out into the public. I'm hearing from the public. So we're going to go through some of those things, and I'm going to try to break them down and explain them. Establishing probable cause. So from what I've understand is before anything else, law enforcement must have probable cause for a warrant. I think most people understand that. A reasonable belief based on facts that evidence of a crime will be found in a specific place or that a specific person committed a crime. Now, I would hope that when London PD started this case, that they went through the channels and they showed the judge that signed off on this warrant what the probable cause is, because they're supposed to. The judge isn't just supposed to sign warrants just for shits and giggles. They're supposed to be probable cause. So I would be interested to see what that probable cause was. I think the gentleman who's now in prison for the weed eater, I'm guessing that he probably provided a name. That's a guess. It's not set in stone. It is just a theory. The way things transpired, that's how it looks to me, that he provided some information. London PD acted on it. Rick, there is a warrant. The warrant is there. So when a warrant happens, here's kind of the procedure. And I know that, at least I would suggest that the city council goes through the policies and procedures of this for the London PD, because this is there's a breach of procedure in there somewhere. Obviously, they went to the wrong house, so somebody didn't do their job, and that's where major accountability needs to be. Oh, Grayson County. I'm not done with Grayson County. I'm waiting on something. But so what happens is the officer investigating is going to draft an affidavit that's going to map out what they're doing, what they want, who the person is, where the person's at, what they suspect, any evidence, that all that stuff needs put together. So the officer prepares the sworn affidavit that talks about the crime being investigated, the evidence supporting probable cause, the specific location or person to be searched or arrested, what items or evidence they expect to find, why the warrant is necessary. So all those things have to be mapped out in the affidavit. This document must be truthful. If it is not, that officer is in violation of the KRS. Knowingly false statements can invalidate the warrant and expose the officer to legal consequences. Next, a judge or magistrate reviews the affidavit. Their job is to act as a neutral check on police power. A neutral check on police power. Yes, Chappell signed it, the warrant. Yep, we'll see on Friday. The facts are going to come out, or at least they better. Now, so what the judge evaluates is whether probable cause exists. Is the affidavit, have they provided enough probable cause for the warrant? Then they look at whether the request is specific enough. Do they have everything narrowed down to specifics? Because that warrant has to be specific. Then he looks at whether the scope is reasonable. And then he looks at whether the request complies with the Fourth Amendment, which is the most important part. Are you violating someone's civil rights by conducting the search warrant? If satisfied, the judge signs the warrant. If not, they deny it or request a revision. So now the issuance of the warrant. Once approved, the warrant becomes a legally binding order. It includes the judge's signature, the date and time issued, the authorized scope of what they're looking for, and any limitations. I would be willing, the time of the night, they're going there for weed eater, allegedly. I don't think a weed eater justifies a late night search warrant. That's me. I don't think it does. I think that if there were special instructions on there for a daytime search, there's no reason they should have been conducting that search warrant at night over misdemeanors or low-level felonies. Nobody cares. Stolen stuff, it's not an emergency. It's not a dire operation. That's fault number one. Now, the planning of the execution of the warrant. You're right. If it's a corrupt search, they'll go do it at nighttime. That's the best time to do corrupt stuff, at night. But this is where the agencies coordinate. Now, here's where I get stuck, because London PD went out into the county. And I'm going to talk about that a little bit more in depth. So keep that in mind. Keep that in the back of your head. London PD went out into the county outside of their jurisdiction. So this is where agencies coordinate. Planning typically involves determining who will serve the warrant. Should London PD have been issuing the warrant? Did John Root allow them to issue the warrant? Because it's his county. London PD can't just go out on their own into the county and start doing search warrants, without running it by John Root. And generally, the sheriff's office will have a supervisor or somebody there with them. I've seen this done before many times, where the agencies come together, they do a search warrant. The crime was happening in the city. The person lives outside of the city. So the agencies come together and they execute search warrants. I've never seen it where the police department goes out on their own and just executes their search warrant. And if you notice from the video, the Doug Harless shooting video, I didn't see any sheriff's officers running around in that video. I don't see any sheriff's officers listed as being there. So my question is, did John Root give them permission to go do their own thing? Now, we know Randall Weddle's first comment about it was, well, me and Little Mayor was sitting around talking and we decided that there's a joint task force. Well, the joint task force got disbanded before this situation even happened. That's on record. So he can't use that as an excuse. That's lie number one. So it can't happen that way. unless John Root gave him permission, which if he gave him permission without having a representative from the sheriff's office to oversee the search warrant, then he's an idiot. I would never let the police department come out in my county if I was sheriff and just run amok and do whatever they want. Yes, Rachel, it does work that way. Generally, jurisdictional lines start and stop. And that's a situation. Search warrants are a little bit different because if they ask for permission, it can be done. It's not illegal for London PD to help out and assist on search warrants, but it is a problem if they just went out there on their own. And we haven't really had John Root come out and say one way or the other because he wants to stay out of it. However, you staying out of it is keeping justice from happening for Doug Harless. And that's unacceptable. And I know I've stayed away from John Root. I haven't bothered him. I haven't said a whole lot since the beginning. And I can't stand silent on it anymore. I don't have any friends on that side anymore. He's got to do something. It happened in his county, and he stayed silent. I've worked for 4 sheriffs in my life, and at no point would any of those sheriffs allow any police department to run their county. We would kick them out of the county if they just showed up out there. This is a territorial thing. The sheriff of the county is the highest ranking elected official in the county. I mean, Kentucky's a little bit different. The judge executive may have a little bit more power maybe, but I doubt it. I would say the sheriff is the highest ranking official in the county. So when we look at it that way, I'm going to tell London PD what to do. I'm going to say, hey, we can do the search warrant, but my boys are doing the search warrant. It's my county. You guys can sit back in your cruisers and watch while the real cops do work. That's what I would have done if I was the sheriff. That's what every sheriff I've ever worked for would have done. They're not going to let the police department come out and conduct business out in their county unmonitored. There's a liability problem there. Hence, we have a liability problem now. So when they're planning the execution of the warrant, they will be determining who will serve the warrant, who's ensuring the location is correct. So inside that little group, which we have yet to find out who's running the show on the search warrant, who was the supervisor sitting there at that time who pre-gamed this execution of the search warrant. Who was it? Because that's the person who needs indicted, not Josh Morgan. Josh Morgan's just doing what he's told. He's just the front man. He was the lead man going in, and he had a gun pointed at him. He reacted and shot. I'm not sticking up for Josh Morgan. I attack him enough. I attack his mom even more. However, I don't believe he's the one to get indicted. I think they got the if the indictment comes out the way everybody's suggesting it is, I think they got it right as far as Josh Morgan goes. However, the prosecutor, Matthew Leverage, got it wrong because he should have indicted the person who was negligent in double checking the house as stated in every single state's procedures for serving warrants. This is not a new concept. This is not a concept exclusive to Kentucky. This is a very, very standard situation for serving warrants. It's not hard. Right. So that it's a good point because I do know that person's name. But anyway, let me get through this and we'll get to it. Agencies are also responsible to verify the address, the target, the time of the day, the presence of unrelated individuals. So they need to make sure that that they reduce the risk factor for children or elderly people or people who are just innocent bystanders. They have that responsibility. They failed all the way around on this one. The timing was ridiculous. It never should have happened at night. Nobody checked the address. The presence of obviously they shot Doug Harless. So they got the wrong person. Yeah, so Tessa, there is a discrepancy there that I do have in the back of my mind where Mayor Weddle said, "Oh, I wasn't even there. I was out of town." But then later on, they say, "Oh, he was there." So they don't even have. Oh, now he's in He was in Lexington at the time, so now he's been in 3 locations on that night. So, there you go. And this is the guy. This is the guy that he thinks he's bulletproof. He thinks he's the god of London. Yeah, Post 11's a little suspect, Freddie. You guys' post up there is even worse. So after the warrant, officers must file and return with the court. They have to list all the items seized. They have to preserve evidence properly, prepare for judicial review or suppression hearings. So obviously, probably only half of that happened because they did the wrong thing. Now, let's talk about Matthew Leverage. I touched a little bit on it in my video this morning, but we're going to go through it in depth. When you need to botch a case, who do you use to botch a case? You use a prosecuting attorney that has a hell of a ton of ethics problems. Now, I also want to bring up the fact that even after Matthew Leverage goes through all the things we're about to talk about, he still keeps getting reelected. And you might say, well, why does Matthew Leverage, if he's such a horrible prosecutor, keep getting elected? Because he runs unopposed elections. So here's the deal. You've got an unethical shitbag prosecutor who wins every election because he's unopposed. Let's talk about Matthew Leverage. According to reporting from the ABA Journal, the Daily Beast, and Yahoo News, Matthew Leverage admitted to impregnating a woman that he was prosecuting. The woman, Letitia Sartain, was a criminal defendant in a drug trafficking case that Matthew Leverage was handling. Then he had an affair with a dismissed juror in another case. This was also reported in the same news coverage. He attempted to revoke Letitia's pretrial diversion after she told his wife about the affair and the pregnancy. So this guy should not have been anywhere near this Doug Harless case. This case is way too important to have such a sketchy prosecutor overseeing it. Yeah, Rachel, I'm not even joking. You can Google all that. Public record. Now, it gets crazier. So a woman filed a motion on Sartain's behalf in 2014 alleging that Leverage retaliated by trying to revoke her diversion program. Rick, I'm going to get to that. So these events occurred around 2011 and 2014, but resurfaced publicly in 2022 when Leverage ran for judgeship and acknowledged the misconduct, saying he had moved on. I moved on. I'm not worrying about that no more. Was he disciplined? No. He was not disciplined. And I have talked to so many people, so many lawyers about this guy, and they're like, how the hell did he not get disciplined? He should have had a bar suspension and everything else. So we're not sure why he was never disciplined. The Kentucky bar is never going to come out and tell us why. But reporting states that Leverage was never disciplined by the Kentucky Bar Association for impregnating a defendant or for the juror affair. He continued serving as Commonwealth's attorney and later sought a judgeship, which he did not get. Yeah, he moved on, Rick. It's okay. Yeah, Tessa, he did out himself on that podcast. I took notes when he was doing that one. I was like, that don't add up. So there are also election-related disputes where opponents accused him of irregularities, but these cases were dismissed by the courts, so you can't really count them. These were political fights, not ethical violations. So yeah, that's the guy who oversaw the Doug Harless case. Wonder why it didn't really work out all that well, or that it's not going to, according to sources. So the Commonwealth's attorney in rural Kentucky often run unopposed. Small communities, there's not really a lot of people, not really a lot of money to get into these long drawn out campaign fights. I get it. We have it back home in Ohio. People get unopposed elections all the time. Leverage serves as the 27th Judicial Circuit. So he's Knox and Laurel counties, a rural region where incumbents rarely face challenges. Local political networks are pretty tight. Prosecutors often stay in office for decades. Scandals don't always translate into electoral consequences. I would like to think that maybe somebody should run against Matthew Leverage and unseat him. Next. Like I said, some of this is a John Root problem. And if I was Doug Harless's family, I would name him in the suit just because he has it happened in his county, and he didn't do anything. He didn't do anything to keep Doug Harless safe. So the liability, I think, also falls on him as well. But that's my opinion. If things happen in my county as a sheriff, I would expect to be held responsible for them. So the description of the property should have been well known. The address should have been double, triple checked. All these things should have happened, and they didn't happen. So that's a supervisory problem. So London PD needs to give up the supervisor. Who was the supervisor on duty that did the background work that didn't do it correctly? Because from what I'm hearing is the ambulance didn't have a problem finding the property. And I know they're close in proximity. And I guess if you get close enough, you just go to the house that has all the cop cars in front of it, I suppose. But earlier in the day, I was told that they were staking out the house, that they had been doing some surveillance. So I don't know, were they doing surveillance on the wrong house too? Like, where did this flaw happen? London PD is going to have to answer for that. And that's where I think that Matthew Leverage should have figured out who the supervisor was and held them accountable. That's where your indictment should have been for negligent homicide. These things, this is one of the most ridiculous botched cases. Yeah, Josh Morgan shouldn't be charged unless they can find some kind of evidence that shows that he nefariously shot Doug Harless for whatever reason. But we don't have that information. It's not there. So we have to assume that he was just reacting to his job of the warrant that was issued to him by his superiors. So the third failure is a tactical escalation on a nonviolent warrant. A nonviolent warrant. So even if this is about yard equipment. Now, Randall Weddle wants to get on TV and say, well, I never even saw the warrant. I didn't know nothing about it. I don't know what they were looking for. But that's bullshit, because you've got a bunch of London PD officers that you are the boss of, that you would just walk down to the police department and go, hey, who was that warrant supposed to be for, and what were they looking for? And they would have had a copy of the warrant that Randall Weddle could have looked at. Randall Weddle should have opened an internal investigation from day one. That should have happened. Yeah, he put Josh Morgan on leave. What about the other officers? What about the supervisors, who's the one that I'm holding responsible for this, whoever that may be? I don't know. I honestly don't know who that person is. They're keeping it hush-hush. but that's the person who needs to be held accountable. There needs to be an internal investigation done, a thorough internal investigation. Now, I'm being told that Randall Weddle doesn't want to cooperate with the NCIC investigation, and neither does London PD. That's a problem because you're not listening to the city council who does make that determination. You're in violation of city ordinance. So just cooperate. Find out who's responsible for the NCIC. Why does it seem like Randall Weddle and the London PD is always trying to cover something up? They're going against the city council when you have a federal crime that happened under your watch and you're still trying to protect officers from getting arrested. That's asinine and ridiculous. You should fire half of those officers in there right now. And it's not happening because there's a giant cover-up happening and he's protecting his buddies. And he knows that if he fires one, they're going to go right into my inbox and they're going to drop the dirt on him. That's what's going to happen. I already know because I've already had one do it. So good luck with that one, Randall. So the investigation drug on. I get it because it sounds like they did a lot of techie stuff to present this to the grand jury. That takes time. I get it. So I am not allowed to disclose that. I was thinking of a clever way to say it, but we're not real sure. There's a lot of information floating around out there. I just thought I would throw it all out there and try to figure out if it sounds plausible or not. So where did this screw up start? It started with the police department. Yeah, I'm pretty sure it was a rumor. The rumor mill's been going crazy. I agree. Accountability has to happen. We can't keep doing this. And I'm running into the same thing. I've just started looking into McCreary County, as probably a lot of you know. But the difference is the community cooperation as a whole for McCreary County has been very impressive. Everyone seems very helpful. They want to see change happen. I want to see that for London. Like, why do we, like, how many, I haven't even really gotten into the bodies in London. How many bodies are in the ground? How many missing people are in London? I've purposefully not dug into that because the Doug Harless case takes precedence and the Randall Weddle debacle of all his criminal enterprise takes precedence. But what happens when this all gets done and I've got time and I start saying, okay, bring me all your missing people. Let's find them. What happens then? It would be great if the community could rally together and say, I had my loved one just disappeared one day, or my loved one was murdered and was never solved. Well, let's figure it out. We can't keep having these people just disappear. You look at Pike County, they have over 50 murders and missing people in the last 15 years. That is a ton. Rick brings up the torture chamber. The torture chamber guy, why do I have to go and do a bunch of digging and get a bunch of records to figure out anything on? You guys had a serious federal criminal working in your tourism, and I mean in your community in London, and nobody knew. Nobody knew. This guy's got there's more stuff. There's more stuff with that guy. His history is insane. It's like he was just born and raised to be the Texas Chainsaw Massacre. That's kind of what I see. Like, this guy's been a big dog in the drug game for a long time. Right under your noses. Is London like the witness protection place? I don't know. Is it? So one of the rumors going around is that the warrant was for James Steele. Apparently, like the rumor is that it was for drugs and not the weed eater. We're not going to know until we have that warrant in front of our face and get a look at it. And I would be willing to bet that we are going to see the city of London and the county or the special prosecutor they're going to drag their feet on releasing any information for public record. We're going to have to pry it out of them. So my advice, I want to leave you guys with something. And I know that everyone's scared because what this looks like, it looks like a green light for murder. I don't see it that way. I see it as there's still options. And there are still options. So what I want you all to do is be patient. Be patient. It's not over. There's still more that can be done. Like I said, hopefully the London City Council will come together and say, hey, we need to really investigate this. Somebody needs held accountable. This is one of our employees that screwed this up. And we're going to get sued for millions of dollars because one of these irresponsible police officers didn't do their job correctly. Let's find out who it is and start disciplining. That's the next step that I think that needs to happen. Now, whether that happens or not, that's not up to me. I'm not an elected official. I'm not a city councilman, but that's what I would like to see happen. I would also like to see this NCIC investigation bear fruit. I mean, you're already getting looked at by the FBI and the feds. Why are you going to resist the city council just because it's the city council? Like they're elected by the city to hold you accountable. Just get the case over with. Whoever's fault it is, let's hold them accountable and get them out of there. To me, it's a form of espionage, and it shouldn't happen at any level of government. I mean, is that how Weddell's people were doxing everybody? You know, did that come from NCIC? Because now you're looking at civil rights violations. So that is going to be the end of the show today. And I want everyone to be careful and just be patient, be rational, and keep your emotions under control. There's no need to go out and do anything irrational. Just let these things happen. And just be kind to each other. There's a time when the Laurel County in London is going to have to turn the page eventually. And you guys need to prepare yourselves for that. And you need to prepare yourselves for, for Friday. Think about it ahead of time and get your emotions under control. So I'm out. Peace.